had a copy of his journal. He sent that to me this year when they asked me to come out here to tell him about the mounds. Then he sent me that journal, and then I read about it. And I wish I'd have known that when I knew Roger, because I knew when they only drilled a pendant from one side that those were Adena, and then I heard about the caches and turkey tails, and that just backed it up more. So there's a fact that these people were Adena people.
Oh, do they have horses?
Yeah. Do they have horses? Not in that period, no.
Okay.
So these are up to 1,500 years old.
1,500 years old.
Wow.
So we have the first case of the Hopewell meeting the Adena people in this place. We can prove that right here. And in Ohio they wondered about how these people, we were the Hopewell. Did they get started in Ohio? No, they got started in Iowa, where they come from, and two people met here, and that's how they got down into Kentucky, and they prospered, and it became Shawnee National Forest. It became famous, so and they spread it, and they were here when the French were here.
24 mounds here, not the 13 that we've been here.
There's 27.
27.
Yes, 27, not the 14.
And it's laid out like the shape of the turtle if you get it from the side.
Yes, if you viewed it, if you put them in a row like he did, he put them in 4 rows. And Roger was real meticulous about drawing them out. And I remember him telling me, he said, the group together made up the shape of a turtle. And then when I counted the mounds and did it, I came up with the same thing.
You know if that has a cultural significance.
Well, the Indians used to use turtles and different animals as symbols for each of their clans and stuff too. So, so it probably was significant. They say this would be called Turtle River.
Okay, so that gives among things people will learn when they come in.
It's an important part of history. And another thing I'd love to find is where the Dayton Indian caves. My wife she was Ranger Kathy, and she passed away a couple years ago, but she had this letter, and it talked about a trip they took by buggy in the days of Judge Caton and them, when he had the deer park and all that in Ottawa. And what they did, they took a trip from Ottawa, and they crossed the river at Dayton, and it talked about they visited the Dayton Indian caves. From there they went to St. Joseph's, the Sulphur Springs, the St. Joseph's Resort there where it used to be. And they went there, and then they came back, and then they went to Judge Caton's deer farm, and one of them got chased up a tree by the elk. And this lady had this letter, and my Catholic said, well, you got to read this. And I always wondered where the Dayton Indian caves were. I haven't found those yet. Maybe someday I'll get to see those. I'd like to see those.
They had elk around here, huh?
Yeah, in Ottawa. You've heard of Dave Mangold talking about Judge Caton and the telegraph lines? That's the same person who had a deer park in Ottawa.
Okay.
And he had elk. He had all kinds of deer in there, even elk. And they were kind of mean, some of them elk. They were big. And they chased one guy. They chased those people up a tree.
They talked about having people come in and possibly restore the mounds. Do you think that's something they can do, or should they?
I talked to the state archaeologist about that, and he said he didn't think that was a good idea because he said you'd be doing more damage. Other people think they were never dug, and they may even attempt them to dig in them again. He thinks as part of their history now, you should leave them the way they are. That was his opinion. So I don't know what we were talking about putting a liner down and then filling them up so they look the way they used to. But state archaeologists did not think that was a good idea.
Okay.